Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Johnny Talks and another video. Today I'm very excited because I will bring to you a supercut of the second debate in which Nina Turner and her opponents faced off. This time it's a debate about the climate crisis and it's arranged by, among others, the Sierra Club. And that will be very interesting. But let's first look at how the race stands. As you may know, there are very many candidates running for the seat, but one of them seems to be more prominent than the others in challenging Nina Turner. Her name is Shontel Brown. She is the chair of the Cuyahoga County Democratic Party, and she seems to have the establishment's backing. Just recently, she released a campaign ad in which she attacked Nina Turner for not being loyal enough to the president and his agenda. And there are some very stark policy differences between Nina Turner and Shontel Brown. So I looked at Shontel Brown's policies on her website, and as you can see, there are many references to the Biden administration, their agenda, and the former Congresswoman Marcia Fudge. I highlighted those in yellow. And I think what that shows is that she wants to provide some kind of cover for her non-sufficient policies on many areas by linking them to people high up in the Democratic Party and the kind of popular people in the district like former Congresswoman Fudge. And I think it also shows that her policy is kind of weak sauce. As an example of that, I saw that she said that she supports the principle of the Green New Deal, and that means, guys, that means that she doesn't support it at all, and she will probably not vote for anything proposed by progressives on that. If you contrast that with Nina Turner, who's staunchly pro-Green New Deal, staunchly pro-$15 minimum wage and Medicare for all, you get a pretty clear choice for progressives. As is typical for establishment Democrats, Shontel Brown also takes a lot of corporate money and big donations. And you can see that on our page on Open Secrets and other forums where you get disclosed such numbers. And there's, for instance, a group called Friends of Shontel Brown, and it includes PACs like Construction PAC and the Greater Cleveland Partnership PAC. And if you look at the website of that PAC, you can see that it promotes the business community of Greater Cleveland, including big corporations. So, as you maybe get from that, she would not put normal people at the very forefront, I think, and she wouldn't support policies that cross her corporate donors. At least that's the experience with many other corporate Democrats. Recently there has also been a news story about her in which she quite clearly panders to pro-Israeli PACs for help to defeat Nina Turner. On her website she does something called red boxing, which is putting some campaign talking points in a sort of a red box and then asking pro-Israeli PACs to kind of broadcast that information using their money. And you could see that she put some quotes from leaders of pro-Israeli PACs on her website in which they praise her, so that the Israeli PACs will be kind of encouraged to donate to her. So you can probably see that Shontel Brown is acting like a typical establishment Democrat, but she is the most prominent challenger to Nina Turner. And in the candidate debate in which that the Sierra Club hosted on climate change, she and Nina participated. Let's see how that went.
Good afternoon. I am Brooks Barrett, the Environmental Justice Minister for the United Church of Christ. As a national organization that is based in Cleveland and represents nearly 5,000 churches around the country, we are glad to co-host this event that connects values to voting, especially on the critical issue of environmental justice. I'm honored to be joined in hosting this event by Jocelyn Travis, an organizing manager for the Sierra Club. This event has been an occasion for many local environmental organizations to come together. Our co-sponsors include CLASH, Cleveland-led Advocates for Safe Housing, the Northeast Ohio Black Health Coalition, the League of Women Voters of Greater Cleveland, and an organization known as BELL, Black Environmental Leaders. We have with us today 6 candidates for Ohio's 11th District Congressional Office race. They are John Barnes Jr., Shontel Brown, Jeff Johnson, Tariq Shabazz, Shirley Smith, and Nina Turner. And now I'll explain our format for today. The format is first to give each candidate 4 minutes to offer opening remarks. We'll then take questions which members of the audience can share by clicking on the Q&A icon that's located at the bottom of your screen. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to a given question. We'll then conclude by giving each candidate 3 minutes to offer closing statements. The candidates will speak in alphabetical order. John Barnes, Shontel Brown, Jeff Johnson, Tariq Shabazz, Shirley Smith, and Nina Turner. We'll move first to Shontel Brown. If you would get us started with your opening remarks.
Well, thank you for putting on this event today. This is a very important topic. For people who don't know me, I am Shontel Brown. I found my way into politics because I wanted to simply help my neighbors who were retirees and seniors. I was the youngest homeowner on the street at the time, and it was actually an environmental crisis that led me to my very first city council meeting. Watching the repetitive news cycle of the earthquake tragedy that struck in Japan made me wonder, where would we go in the event of an emergency? At the time, I lived up the street from an elementary school and around the corner from our senior citizen center, and I thought to myself, the best way to get that answer would be going to my city council meeting, and that's exactly what I did. I learned at the time that there was a volunteer organization that provides evacuation routes in the event of an emergency, but something gnawed at my spirit and said, keep going so you can learn about what's happening in your neighborhood. Well, much like many of us, I thought that there were some things that could be improved. So rather than sitting down, I decided to live by the expression I strongly believe in, which is be the change you want to see. And that's what led me to run for my very first city council race. As I continued to attend the meetings, the administration took notice and they said, if you need some help out there, let us know. Well, I'm happy to say, as you can imagine, when you're knocking on doors and you want to represent people, they are quick to point out issues that need to be addressed. And some of those issues included tree branches that needed to be trimmed, sewers that needed to be cleaned, and potholes that needed to be filled. So fast forward, things started happening fast because I took them up on their offer and they responded. Also, many of you might know this part of my story. When the polls closed, I was down by 6 votes. And I actually thought I lost the race, but as a child of faith, I trusted God's infinite wisdom. I said, okay, this must not be for me. And I was convinced I would never run for public office again. But little did I know, 23 days, provisional ballots were in our race. And 11 days later, I learned I had won that race by 7 votes. 7 votes. So this is a testimony that every vote does count, but it also represents the fact for me, 7 is very significant because as a child of faith, that represents perfection, completion in God. So I say that I am on this public service journey by his divine intervention, grace, mercy, and favor. So my entree into politics is a little bit different. I wasn't recruited. I didn't wake up and just decide that I wanted to become a legislator. I think politics kind of found me, and I'm proud of the work that I've been able to do. In 2014, the people of Cuyahoga County promoted me from city council to county council representative, where I represent 10 of the 59 communities here. I represent Bedford, Bedford Heights, Cleveland wards 1 and 4, Highland Hills, North Randall, Orange, Pepper Pike, Shaker Heights, Warrensville Heights, and Woodmere. As you can tell, that is quite a diverse district, from the inner city to the outer ring suburbs, from the most impoverished to some of the most affluent, and everything in between. This year, 6 years, going on 7 years of experience of representing diverse population gives me a unique advantage that puts me in a position that I'll be ready to do the job on day one. As a legislator, I'm proud to say I have passed policies with collaboration from across the aisle, from things of activating Text 911 to overseeing $200 million in COVID relief funds, and most notably declaring racism as a public health crisis with bipartisan support during these most volatile, divisive, and polarizing times. The work that I've done, I'm very proud of. And in 2017, I like to point out that I made history when I became the first woman and the first Black person ever elected by the people in the organization of the Cuyahoga County Democratic Party. And that's important to point out. The people saw me fit to lead the largest and what I would describe as the most complicated Democratic County Party of the 88 in this state. So now here we are with the opportunity to continue the journey of public service on the federal level. I am so grateful for the opportunity to be able to continue doing the work of service for the people who need it the most. And I look forward to working with the current administration and Speaker Pelosi to ensure that we get the resources that we need back into the hands of the people who have been hit hardest by this pandemic. So thank you again for the opportunity. I am Shontel.
Now we'll have Nina Turner.
Thank you, Reverend, and thank you, Sister Travis, so much. Good afternoon to all of my colleagues and everybody that's joining us. This afternoon, I want to thank the Coalition of Environmental Justice Leaders for hosting this important forum. You know, without Mother Earth and Brother Tariq kind of took a little my thunder, no pun intended, and talking about Mother Earth and the way that I talk about it. But Mother Earth is real, and every other thing that we care about, whether it's racial injustice, health disparities, you name it, none of those things will matter. We cannot do any of those things unless we take care of Mother Earth, and we must repair the damage that we as human beings have done, and the ecosystem has been disrupted for generations, and a lot of it has to do with the arrogance of humankind. And so just as that was done, we can undo it. So again, I just want to thank the Coalition of Environmental Justice Leaders for having us. You know, my name is Nina Turner, and I'm running for Congress on an opportunity agenda that is focused on the poor, the working poor, and the barely middle class in this country. And I emphasize barely middle class because, as we have seen, you want to talk about environmental injustice. There's an injustice that is plaguing this nation, and it is the ultra greed of those who have the most money, which gives them the most access, which rigs the entire system. You want to talk about big oil and the tax breaks that they get. I certainly believe that the polluters should pay, that there should always be some consequences, some demands made on the use of the taxpayers' dollars. But it benefits each and every one of us. This is not about a political affiliation when we talk about what's happening to Mother Earth. This is about your human affiliation. And it continues to boggle my mind that even corporations and the ultra wealthy would not see the merit, the human merit, in doing the right thing on behalf of Mother Earth for ourselves and also for future generations. And so as the next Congresswoman for the 11th Congressional District, I will focus on creating economic opportunities, advancing the justice journey in this country, and delivering on a progressive agenda for Ohio's families. A part of this agenda is focused on environmental issues. I believe very fundamentally that not just us in the 11th Congressional District or the great state of Ohio, this great nation, but this world. And really what climate chaos reminds us, very much in the way that this pandemic reminds us of what the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once said about what affects one directly, affects us all indirectly. There is no way that we're going to deal with climate chaos or climate change or climate disruption without us doing it together as a community, as a state, as a nation, and as a world. And this climate chaos definitely cements that we are definitely citizens of the world, and the United States plays a great part in being a leader in this. And I do applaud the Biden administration for the start of what is happening. I applaud the progressive leaders who are pushing even harder the reintroduction of the Green New Deal this week by people like Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez and Senator Sanders, and even Congresswoman Cori Bush has put her mark on this. They're going further than they did when this was first introduced. There is a fierce urgency of now, because we cannot delay in the taking care of Mother Earth. And so as a part of that agenda, clean air, clean food, clean water, that's a given, and it should be a priority for all people. And so this Green New Deal will mean new jobs and new opportunities, and we can deal with racial and social injustices in this district, in the state, and in this nation.
Thank you, and thank you to each of our candidates for those opening statements. We now have questions taken from the audience. One question that has been posed to us from the Black environmental leaders is, what does environmental justice mean to you? What policies and/or environmental justice initiatives have you accomplished in your current position? If elected to Congress, how do you plan to leverage or expand your environmental justice work to date? And Shontel Brown.
Thank you. So as it relates to policies that I have worked on in my current elected capacity, I'm proud to say I worked on the Lead Safe initiative here in Cuyahoga County, where we provide testing for renters as well as homeowners who have properties that are over the age of 1978, which are primarily the resources or where people and babies under the age of 6 are being subject to lead poisoning due to the chipping paint that they are ingesting while either they're playing or breathing or putting it in their mouths. And so this program provides remediation sources so that we can address this issue. And the effects of lead poisoning are very devastating. I mean, it results in behavioral issues, learning issues, even hearing impairment. This has also had an impact on our women who are pregnant. It is no secret at this point, I led the initiative to declare racism as a public health crisis, which was fundamentally rooted in the issues around infant mortality. And the infant mortality issues are closely tied to, again, these environmental injustices that we are experiencing. When we talk about environmental injustice, you cannot leave out social justice, and racial justice. So as it relates to the future, yes, I'm excited about the Biden-Harris administration's initiatives. They are very progressive and aggressive, and it's going to take someone who can work with them, not publicly insult them, to get the resources back into the hands of the people who need them the most. And I'm the person that's best positioned to do that for the 11th Congressional District. Thank you.
And Nina Turner.
Yeah, I want to preface this by saying that, this fight for climate justice is something that has to be universal. It's not something that one district can do, one state, one nation. This is an international issue. In terms of some of the things that I've done in my capacity as a state senator, and also Senator Shirley Smith was right there as well, is opposing the efforts to allow Ohio businesses to take out millions of gallons of water daily from Lake Erie. I also oppose the bills that protect I also oppose bills that made Lake Erie vulnerable. We are fortunate and blessed to be one of the Great Lakes areas, and we must preserve Lake Erie and not allow corporations to just do whatever they want to do. And then I also introduced some bipartisan legislation that encouraged Ohio consumers and businesses to embrace greener modes of transportation. We know that there is very much an intersectionality between transportation and race and economics. Just all of these, none of these things can be done in a silo. They all really connect. And, I'm proud of the work that I've done. I'm also proud of the work that I want to do. Justice is a journey. It's not a destination. So nobody has a monopoly on one thing or another. Once we are walking or running in the right direction, we got to keep going. You don't stop. And so I definitely had the courage to ask for more. I've been endorsed by Friends of the Earth, 0 Hour, and I've also pledged not to accept any donations over $200 from oil and gas or coal executives. Again, the polluters must pay, or lobbyists and PACs, and instead I prioritize the health of our families, of our community, of this district, of this state, this nation, and this world. Again, environmental justice is a worldwide proposition, and leaders must see it that way.
Thank you so much. Our next question comes from Clash in United Church of Christ. Although many of you have spoken on some of these questions, feel free to respond any way you feel would be helpful. Where do you stand on specific environmental legislation, particularly the Lead Safe Housing for Kids Act and the Green New Deal resolution. Shontel?
Thank you. So as it relates to lead safe, again, as a Cuyahoga County Council representative, I have authorized the significant resources to be able to address this issue so that people in the suburban communities, because Cleveland had taken on their own initiative, could remediate the problem in properties that were over the age or built before 1978. This is a significant problem. I believe that in 2019, 1,000 children under the age of 6 tested positive for leads, and that was despite a decrease of 600 tests, 600 less being tested. And with the pandemic, we are seeing even less testing. So we know that the problem will continue to exist, but we need people in positions to be able to work collaboratively to address the issues and remedy the issues as it relates to lead. The Biden administration has already put forth some aggressive planning around the $2 trillion investment around infrastructure. And what that means as it relates to the Green New Deal is new job opportunities as it relates to our goals to have a 2035 carbon-free power sector and a 2050 carbon-free emissions, net zero emissions. What does that mean locally? New jobs, new opportunities, and we need people in position that can negotiate and compete for these new opportunities. We have the workforce, we have the real estate, we have everything that we need to make sure that Northeast Ohio is in a competitive position to be able to take full advantage of these once in a lifetime opportunities and investments. And the only thing that we're missing is a representative that can get the job done. And again, I am that person. Thank you.
Much, Shirley. Nina?
Thank you. We definitely need more money for the mission. We know that the housing stock in the 11th Congressional District is very old, and so we have to put more dollars towards making sure that the properties are lead safe. To make most of them totally lead free, it costs an extraordinary amount of money, but making sure that they're lead safe and that as we build new buildings and new structures that they are totally lead free. Yes, the foundation of our children's health depends on it. And it's not just about lead in the water, as we all know. Some of my colleagues laid it out quite wonderfully. Is it what's in the soil? You know, Rutgers University did a study that showed that there were 3,000 other places in the country that had even higher lead levels than even Flint. And although Flint certainly has been the canary in the coal mine to draw more attention to it, we must put money towards that mission and not relent on that. Now, the Green New Deal is very visionary, and that's what you need. We got to provide provision for the people. You got to have a vision for that provision. The Green New Deal shows very clearly that it's not just about what people think is possible in this moment, but it's looking at this moment and going beyond. And that is why I support the Green New Deal, because the Green New Deal is a racial justice instrument, and it's also an economic justice instrument as well. And the city of Cleveland in 2020, I believe $5 million more towards making properties lead free, and that was led by Councilman Blaine Griffin. And then as a whole, about $22 million is coming into the Cleveland area to deal with lead remediation. So all of these things are very important. It's not just one thing, it's all of these things together. Again, the intersectionality between lead, between the Green New Deal, between clean water, clean air, and clean food. All of those things go together.
Thank you. And now we have a question from Catherine, who is coming from the League of Women Voters for Greater Cleveland. She writes, some of the greatest challenges for Lake Erie come from so-called non-point sources, which are not directly regulated under the Clean Water Act. Do you favor changes to federal law to enhance non-point controls to protect the Great Lakes? And for those who in our audience perhaps who have never heard of non-point pollution controls, I'll just a quick definition to say that a point source pollution would be like a drain pipe at a factory. It's coming from a specific point that you can point to and name, whereas a non-point pollution comes from a broad diffuse area, so it could be runoff from an agricultural field, fertilizer, for example, heading into Lake Erie. Shontel Brown?
Thank you. If I understood the question, as you said, is do you favor changes to the federal law to enhance non-point controls to protect the Great Lakes? And yes, I would. I think everyone, every American, every human being deserves the right to be able to drink clean water and to breathe clean air. In addition to that, as it relates to the clean water, the lead pipe initiatives that are being put forth will address this issue as it relates to making sure that everyone in our communities can reverse some of these trends that we've been dealing with for decades. The investments that are being talked about are once in a lifetime investments to deal with these issues. The initiatives that we are talking about are rare and unique opportunities that we can take advantage of to be forward thinking. A pro-climate agenda is also a pro-business community agenda. It promotes opportunities to really advance our communities and strengthen them and make them competitive. We are not going to have the vision to be able to capitalize on these rare opportunities to turn our district around, where we continuously ranked amongst the poorest cities, big cities in the nation, and we will find ourselves at the same place where we are. This is an opportunity to fight for our future, and we need someone who is committed to the people and public service and who has a proven track record of getting things done. So as it relates to these issues, I have a track record. I am grateful for the opportunity to be able to continue to do this work at the federal level. And so I appreciate the question. Thank you.
Nina Turner?
Yes, absolutely. And the question reminded me of the algae bloom situation we had in Toledo. I believe that was in 2014, and that may have been what the question was in reference to. I believe also the National Guard had to bring in bottles of water. To something that Brother Tariq had mentioned about the EPA, just even thinking about the rich tradition in this district and having both Honorable Stokeses, Mayor Carl B. Stokes and also Congressman Stokes, when that river, when Cuyahoga River caught on fire, part of what we know to be the EPA today and the Clean Water Act is because of their vision to make sure that nothing like that ever happened again. And that vision did not only help the people of this city, this county, this district, and it helped people in the state and also in the nation. So again, when it comes to looking at environmental justice and how we stem the tide of climate chaos, there is no go it alone. There is no just look at the 11th Congressional District all alone by itself. This is, in fact, time for real deep collaboration. This is, in fact, the time to make sure that we have the policies and stringent rules and can't equivocate on it, because we do only have one earth and people are entitled, all people are entitled to clean air, clean water, and clean food. This is the one issue, other than dealing with the global pandemic, that we can come together as a worldwide community to deal with these issues. We must, because that's the only way that progress is going to be made in any stretch of the imagination. This is not a go it alone proposition. Climate chaos is real. The damage that it is doing, the pull and push factors that are happening, the destabilization, all of those things are real. So we have to come together, not only as a district, a state, and a nation, but as a world to deal with this and undo the damage, or at least stem the tide of the damage that our arrogance as human beings have caused on the entire ecosystem of this world.
Thank you so much for those responses. We're running short on time, and we want to make sure we have a time for all of the closing statements. I do want to make sure that members of the audience have their concerns and issues heard. And so I'll just lift up some of the things that have come through in the chat box and through the Q&A. And if you want to weave that into your closing statements, you may. But also, I want you to know, each of you candidates, the concerns that people are bringing forward. So we have concerns for where do you stand on nuclear energy? Would you take money from First Energy? What would you do to support a local effort towards 100% clean or renewable energy? What would a just transition to a green economy look like? Concerns about the EPA. We know some of the nation's leading super polluters for toxic air emissions are within this district, MPC plating being one of them. What should be done to strengthen the EPA to address those things? Jocelyn, are there other things you'd like to add in? We could keep going. There's the carbon tax, Green New, more about why not support the Green New. So I wish we had time to jump into all of that. But Jocelyn, anything you want to add before we lead into the final comments?
No, just that I'm excited that people are so, becoming so involved in this issue. It just tells us that we need to continue this discussion. And I'm looking forward to the final statements from our candidates.
And we will go right into that now. Shontel Brown.
Thank you again. Thank you for the privilege of hosting this forum and giving us a chance to share some of our perspective and positions as it relates to this very critical issue. It is a global problem, and it is a global problem that requires local leadership. And we need people who are committed to addressing these issues and that have had some semblance of success in dealing with challenges in our communities. Yes, the challenges are great. They are many. And sometimes it seems like the resources are far too few. And that is indeed going to be the case as it relates to the resources that we have. They are finite. We will have to compete for them. As Mr. Barnes pointed out, we have a narrow majority in the Senate and the House, and we also have the presidency. It is important that we have a person representing the 11th Congressional District that will be able to work with everyone to make sure that we get the resources back into the hands of the people who need them the most. A climate forward economy represents job opportunities. It represents an opportunity to reverse conditions that have been plaguing communities, poor communities, low-income communities, communities of colors for decades. It is my hope that we put a person in a position that has the experience in dealing with these issues. As the person who led the initiative to declare racism as a public health crisis at the county with bipartisan support, I am best positioned and most prepared to get the job done and to start doing the work on day one. So I thank you again for this privilege. This is a very big problem that requires a lot more discussion based on the questions that have been coming through the chat. And hopefully we can talk about this some more in the future. I thank everyone for their time in joining us today for this fruitful and positive conversation. I am Shontel Brown, County Council Representative for the 9th District, Chairwoman of the Cuyahoga County Democratic Party, and candidate for the 11th Congressional District. I thank you.
Finally, Nina Turner.
Thank you, Reverend. And thank you, Sister Travis, so very much, and all of the leaders that helped us put this, come together to talk about this most pressing issue. You know, sisters and brothers, only all that we love is on the line. That's all. That's it. Nothing too much, just all that we love. And so when it comes to dealing with the environment in all of its forms, we definitely have to press forward and do that strongly and not to equivocate, and have the intestinal fortitude to put the requisite investments that are necessary. And that's why I wholeheartedly support the Green New Deal. And I'm so glad that my colleagues reintroduced the Green New Deal in even a more fierce way than they did the first time, showing very clearly that they have the courage to ask for more, just like I do. And a Green New Deal in Ohio 11th means tangible change, not only for ensuring that we move away from our dependence on fossil fuels, but that we can ensure a just transition. And it is vitally important that we have a just transition. We cannot leave our sisters and brothers in coal behind. It must be a just transition. Jobs with infrastructure, This Green New Deal reminds me very much of the New Deal, and we can put some 21st century on it, the New Deal, that also encompasses what is necessary to deal with our Black and brown communities. The whole notion of caste and class goes together when we're talking about dealing with the environment. But this is not just Mother Earth, the physical environment. We're talking about the political environment, the social environment, the racial environment. And isn't it a beautiful thing that there is so much promise in this problem, that people can be visionaries, that you can both agree with people who are doing the right thing, but also have the courage to ask for more. Thank God that we come from a tradition of people who did not just settle, because if they settle, so many of the great human, social, and racial justice movements of our time, if they had just settled, we would not be able to gather together as we are doing right now. So this Green New Deal, the greening of America and the greening of this nation and this world, it means that we're going to create good paying jobs. We are going to be able to help people to go from survive to thrive, securing racial, economic, and environmental justice for all. And I am confident that as we continue to build coalitions with people who we agree with 100%, and maybe sometimes people that we do not. You know, the great leadership guru Stephen Covey once said, seek first to understand and then to be understood. And this is really what this moment is about. Only all that we love is on the line. And we must unite as a district, a state, a nation, and a world to deal with climate chaos so that the entire ecosystem can thrive. Thank you so much for having us. NinaTurner.com is my website. Please visit. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and thank you to all of our candidates for presenting today.
So, that was the debate. How do you think it went? I think it went pretty well. I think Nina Turner made clear distinctions from Shontel Brown. She was more talking about her local service and how she was qualified and so on, and not that much about specific policies as it relates to what is actually proposed in Congress, like for instance the Green New Deal. And Nina Turner, she made very moral arguments and she talked about specific legislation, and I think that type of legislation really fits with the people she's hoping to represent, considering it's a poor district and probably needs some progressive policies in order to thrive. So what do you guys think about the debate? I would really like to hear from you in the comment section, and just say whatever. I mean, how you feel about the debate, how you think I can do videos differently in the future, or yeah, just about anything actually. So I think I'll end this video here, and thank you all for watching. I'll keep you posted if there are some developments in the race that are significant, or if there's another debate, and of course in the end the result of the primary when it happens in August. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.